So when you're sorry, the way that you I want you guys to be thinking about making a sign and creating your message is by doing something called block text. Right, this is one of like how people create large bold letters on their signs. And there are a bunch of different things that you can use instead of this. However, this is kind of like a something that will work beyond just like one style of a sign. This will work on like birthday cards and like other things like that. So first step is going to be to write out the message with regular letters. Okay. I've seen it a bunch of times. I'm gonna use the back of this paper. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Actually, I'll grab another piece of paper. I've seen it a bunch of times where you guys are writing like a birthday card. John Mulaney actually made this. You guys write out like a really cool like happy birthday, right? You're like, oh, okay, here's the H, and then here's the A, right? Oh yeah, that looks really good so far. I'm doing fantastic, right? There's the P, but now I'm starting to run into this problem, right? And that is my letters start running a space. So I need to make like instead of that capital Y, that's the same size as everything else, I'm going to be doing a lowercase y, right? This has happened a lot of times, right? And then birthday, which isn't even one word, is going to become much more difficult to plan out the spacing of, okay? So instead of just jumping into it like this, we need to actually write it out on our paper first with regular letters, okay? The message I'm going to be using is Black Lives Matter. So here's my B, like so. And just spacing it out, right? I know that I want to use two words here, so black and then lives here, so I'm going to leave this part in the middle, like my finger here to mark where it's go. I want this word to actually reach the end where my finger is touching. And you can do this with any phrase or any words you choose. You just have to plan your entire piece of paper, right? So here I made that point right there. Now I'm going to start on this side. So there are fewer, I think, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, L, I, E, E, S. Actually, they have the same number of letters. So I just have to take up the same amount of space in order to make it even, right? And there you go. So in this step, if you have messed up because you put too many, too big of letters, you can always erase it at this point, and you haven't invested that much time. I have this much space for the last thing. I could just make like a little tiny thing I mentioned before, right? That's not too effective. We want to use up as much space as possible. There are M-A-T-T-E-R, 6 letters there. So we want to divide this up into 6 about equal spaces. 6 is an even number, so I can divide it in half. And then from there, I can divide each of these into, so half here, I can divide each of these sections into 3 parts, right? This half here, and I can add 2 lines at the bottom, dividing this space into 3 about equal sizes. This one over a bit. And now I can fit my letters into that space, right? So it's going to go here. Like so. And then A is going to go here. Right. This also helps to accentuate or emphasize that I feel needs to stand out the most, right? The bigger something is, the more obvious, the more eye-catching that thing is. There you go. E. Now, this doesn't have to be super perfect, but if you wanted to make it perfect, you could always pull out a ruler and get these straight lines. But this is just, like as I mentioned, the sketching step, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so there you go. We have our large size sketch. Now we're going to turn these things into blocklet, right? We have the basics down. So for this, for the letter B, I'm just going to draw this little D inside where the hole is. And then you can erase here, anything that does not fit, right? So that line that's through it cuts through the block. And now I have my B, right? If things are a little bit wonky, you can always say, oh, for example, this is too big, or sorry, this is too low. I'm going to move it up higher, right? You're allowed to do that. It's your sign, right? It's your text. Next is L. I pretty much have this shape down. I'm just going to add this inner L, like so, okay? And then for this, the A's, those are kind of hard, or a little bit more challenging. I'm just going to make this bottom part right here to close it off. And then using this line that's already here, I'm just going to add a triangle on the inside and then erase everything that's left. Or sorry, the previous part of the line that I didn't use. And then for the C, I'm just going to add another C on the inside. This is similar to how we approach the L. Yeah, and then the K is kind of similar to how we need to approach the A. Okay, so we're going to close off the top with that this like V shape inside. I'm going to make this go a little bit lower. Okay, and then I'm going to close the bottom. And we could just let that, but I think that looks weird. So I'm going to actually make this top part thicker, like so. And then this down a bit more to even it out. Like so. Okay, you could always make these letters a little bit thicker too if this looks a little too thin. Same thing as the previous L. Eyes that look like this, where it's just a straight line, you just have to do that. Okay, if you have the other eye, it's basically an L, but like on two sides, right? V, just adding in this top part here. B, kind of like how it kind of looks like a B, right? So I'm just gonna add in like this outline on the inside, and then just erase anything I don't need. The hardest part for an E is generally the middle part, where it might end up being too thick, like I have it here, right? It's a little bit thicker, but it's okay. It's a big deal. They have the S. S generally pretty hard if you don't know where to start, but just pick one side, either the top or the bottom, and then go with that. If you want it to line up with the rest of it, right? My S is sticking out a little, then you actually have to erase it, and then draw the. I like to start with the inside, and then go with the bottom. Okay, now it looks a little bit better, right? Because it's a little bit higher. Now for this part, I want the M, the bottom part, because if I go around the top part, then the middle side of the paper, right, which makes it weird and not visually pleasing. Okay, A, same thing as before, going with the bottom part, filling out the inside, and then at the top here, putting in a triangle. Okay, and then I'm erasing what I don't need. Right, notice here, like I'm using that foundation that I made for myself earlier, right? I don't have to worry about the size of anything anymore, right? I don't have to worry about that situation I talked about earlier with the birthday card, where you need to like worry about running out of space. Okay, so erase that middle section. T, same thing again. And that's the beauty of doing some sort of sketch first, right? It saves you time in the long run. Finish that. And then the E, same as before. Like so, going around what I already have. If you really wanted to make this like super perfect, you can take a ruler and measure out the width of everything to get and like use that for super straight lines. And the R. So the R is kind of a combination of like a D, or the top part of a B, right, with a K, the bottom part of a K, right? And then erase anything you don't need. Like so. And you have your basic block text. Right? If you wanted to make it bold, remember I told you like you want it to pop out. You can take a black marker. In this case, I'm going to use a brush pen, but a marker works fine, like a Sharpie or something. And then you just have to, right? You just fill in the inside of your letters, and you're good to go. That's pretty much how it looks. Let me do this example for you so you can see the difference when you actually fill it in. If you don't have a marker, you can just take like a pencil and then shade it in. The problem with that though is like it might be kind of smudgy, which, you know, if you care or if that's what you want, then go for it, right? Signs don't have to look like any one thing. My block text doesn't have to look exactly like your block text, and vice versa. And that's okay, right? Because this is your voice, and how you choose to communicate your letters is up to you. Just remember the goal is to make sure that, so don't just think, oh yeah, I can like, you know, just do whatever and it's fine, right? You still need an objective and a goal that you need to follow, which is to make it visually appealing and also easy to understand, right? So if you look at that B compared to all the other letters, right? Look how much more that stand out against the white background. If you did that to all of your letters, then it'll be much more effective and easier to see.